my record something failed. Okay, so our main topic today is release planning for satisfied cactus, but we're going to start a couple of other things and hopefully get through them pretty quickly. One of them is a status report about, let me show my screen, the release that we're working on right now. Here it is. So I know Andy is online, hopefully. Andy, you there?
Yes, I'm here. I'm at the airport, so there might be some background noise. Sorry about that. Okay,
so he sent me a couple of bullets so that you could see what he was saying as he says it. Let me just bring this up and go ahead and start, Andy.
Okay, so shared delusion. The theme of this release, you'll remember, is making life better for the developers. And so there were a lot of improvements that went into the release. For example, to the build system, to the synchronizer framework, to the XOS core. Developers have been absorbing all these changes. The feedback we've been getting has been really positive. So I think we all feel good about this release. So with the help of QA during the bug sprint, we found and squashed a lot of critical bugs. I was really happy with the way the bug sprint went. We really were able to focus on finding bugs, and I think that we got rid of a bunch of nasty ones. So at this point, there's no critical bugs outstanding that I'm aware of. And so we have cut RC1 and turned it over to QA. So if you can pop back one slide. So the acceptance criteria, I think, for this release, this is what we've been discussing in the engineering meetings, is so the RC is cut. That's already happened. RC has no outstanding critical bugs. Like I said, as far as I know, that's the case right now. RC is passing the QA automated testing, so that's QA has their own test suite that they've written. There's Cord in a box that's building 4.0. There's the full pod builds of 4.0. I'm not sure of the status of the automated tests that QA themselves have built, but Cord in a box and full pod builds are both working on 4.0, as shown by Jenkins.
I can update on the QA automated testing. So
yeah, please go ahead.
We have passed most of the test cases except for the one which we are waiting for the fabric to be completely set up, especially the VST container part. So if we can get that up and then quickly create the test that we were waiting for the multiple test, so I think then we should be good to go.
Okay, yeah, that sounds great.
Thanks a lot, Andy, for helping us get to setting up all the pods.
Yeah, sure. So one of the things that Suchitra just mentioned is QA is working on manually verifying the documentation for configuring the fabric. So we need to do this manually because the Jenkins tests that we have right now for building the pod doesn't yet go through the point of setting up the fabric and verifying that it works. So QA and I have been working on doing that manually. It seems like we can mostly get it working manually, except we're not able to bring up the nodes that are on leaf 2. So I need some expert on configuring the fabric to help us out with this and figure out what we're doing wrong. And I think the documentation is in pretty good shape now, but we continue to iterate on that and try to verify that it works.
So on the documentation, there are a couple issues that I found this morning. With the last patches, we broke some links as we renamed some files, and in a couple places the book.branch doesn't get correctly parsed during the documentation build.
Okay, well,
as the person who probably broke that, I'm actively looking further that, and I'm going to start integrating a link checker so we don't run into this in the future.
yeah, so if we can get a public list of all the problems that people are finding with the documentation, either in Jira or some other form that is maybe just a bolded list in a Google Doc where we can all look at it, then that would be great.
Yeah, I'll add those on the Google Docs. I have
There's already a Google Doc, just go back.
Yeah. I just have to add it to that Google Doc.
And also we raised one Jira ticket to capture all the issues to be fixed in the documentation.
Okay, good.
So, yeah, do that.
Okay.
So I think that's it for what I wanted to report.
Anything else? Go ahead.
Yeah, just one note. Scott yesterday reported a bug on the GUI. I was investigating it this morning, and apparently there is an issue when we are creating, right after updating service models. I think I found the cause, and it looks pretty important bug because it prevents you from updating the model unless you reload the GUI. The fix should be easy enough that can be done by today.
Okay. So say what, before you said it was easy enough, say what you said in the previous sentence.
So if you create a service model, for example, a tenant, and you immediately try to update it, the GUI will send the request to the wrong URL.
Okay.
So basically you cannot update it.
So is that Matteo? Do you consider that a release blocker?
Well, I think that's a shared decision that we need to take. I would like to see it fixed in the release, but if I'm the only one that considers it a blocker, I'm okay without.
Yeah, I would argue in favor of it being a blocker as well, just because it workflows in the GUI. Someone tries to create and update an object and the wrong thing happens. It also seems like Matteo thinks he can fix it really quickly, so it'd be nice to get it into the release.
Anything else?
ETA?
So ETA, he said, Matteo, assuming this is a blocker,
Everything.
yeah, so fix today. So we go through the whole process again by the end of the week.
Yeah, I think this fix being confined in the GUI shouldn't affect all the other functionalities. So also testing should be faster.
Good. Okay. All right, let's go to the second topic before release planning, which is a Volta proposal. I'm not quite sure I fully grok what. David?
Yeah, thanks, Larry. Kim's on the line from Volta. Basically, the summary is we're having issues because Volta's in the same Git repo manifest as Cord, but they essentially have separate release trains, and that's causing us some issues around version tagging and Jenkins builds. And Kim can explain it all better and kind of what he's proposing to do in the short term and what help we need. So, Kim, it is all yours.
Okay, yeah. Hi, everyone. There's actually a Volta Jira for this that's just kind of a short summary if you have ability to pull that up. That's what I'm looking at right now. But essentially, what the problem is using the repo tool to try to pull the cord manifest and check out Volta from a branch, right? Master is working, but checking out from a branch, that won't work because Volta is keeping its unique, pull up vol 468, vol 468.
Volta 468?
Volta 468, yeah.
VOL-468, VOL.
Oh, sorry.
VOL. Okay, there's a bunch of other JIRAs behind this, but this is kind of a summary JIRA of the quickest stopgap we could think of to allow us to continue to do the Volta releases, which there's imminent releases here right now. But this is basically the problem summary and a solution on how we think we can go forward with this. So the problem statement is right there. If you try to pull, and Jenkins will do this, and a developer might, or QA tester or somebody might try to pull Volta from either a branch or a tag that exists in the Volta repo. And this will fail because the manifest repo doesn't have the same branch and tags in it. So and that causes a myriad of problems that are in that vol 459, which we don't have to go through. But what the ask is here is that just until we can have a longer term solution for Volta releasing and packaging and how it goes together, is to try to create these branches in the manifest and chameleon cord repos, and that will probably allow this. All the testing is showing that this will probably allow this to work to do a repo init and a repo sync, just as everything is now, current documentation and everything. But we would need these branches and possibly any release tags to be applied to these other two repos. So that's kind of the high level summary. So the ask is to get those, if we could get some assistance or agreement that this is happening, so that the cord release team knows what's going on here and involved in it. And then we'll, I think it's a longer term problem to solve when Volta gets released with Cord. How does that all work? That'll be discussed later, but for now, this is the immediate problem.
Anyone have comments?
I have one. I think I'm perfectly fine with the short-term fix. I see that the request is to create the branch both in the manifest repo and in Chameleon. But didn't Volta move to Envoy to manage what Chameleon was doing?
Who owns Chameleon? Is that?
No, it was just for curiosity because I heard here and there that Volta was dropping Chameleon in favor of another tool. So I was just wondering why we need a branch also there.
Okay, so like right now, my best knowledge of this is Volta is using Envoy as a replacement for Chameleon, and it appears that none of the actual build actually uses Chameleon. It's just referenced in the Docker the Docker deployment files and I think one of the unit tests are just making sure Chameleon is there and Chameleon is present and running, but nothing in Volta at the moment is using it. So there's a different JIRA to track removing Chameleon from the Volta build, but for the stopgap for right now is applying this branch to Chameleon should get us over a little bit quicker without having to try to go through all the testing required to pull Chameleon out.
Okay, sounds good to me. And I have a more general comment. I had a note also in the release planning that we talked a lot of time about making the release more modular and each component having its own version and its own release cycle. So maybe that's a good use case to form a brigade around it with person from the different team and the different projects.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So on the Volta proposal here, I want to make sure I understand what's being proposed. So creating the branches, I don't see any issue with that. But I want to make sure I understand what is meant by creating the Volta release tags, because in Cord, when we create like the release candidate, we have this automated job that runs and it creates essentially a new manifest with specific commits in there representing all of the commits and all the repositories that are going into that release candidate. And so is Volta saying that they need something similar here? They want an automated process, or that it's just a creating a tag? I'm not quite sure.
Okay, so let me elaborate on that a little bit. So right now, Volta is using the same tagging methodology, right? It puts a tag in Volta that's similar to Cord. It's just like if there's a 1.0.0 tag, and that's just the name of the tag in Volta, that is how Volta is doing it. But if it ties, if we want to get these tags into, so we can pull a Volta with repo using the repo init tool, right? We would have to have that tag in there to be able to pull that from. And what this proposal is it just puts a prefix on those tags that appear in these Cord repos so that it's distinguished from and doesn't have any relationship to any of the Cord tags. So that's what the purpose is there. So as we slide down the branches here for 1.0 or 1.1, when we do a release, we can put a tag on that. The tag would be named with this convention that's proposed here, which sort of stands out and is different from what Cord is using. So, and that would only, appear in manifest or Chameleon repos. So it's not asking for any type of Cord release action to be done at all here. This is just totally to sort of grandfather Volta away from the Cord, the Cord repo tie-in to sort of get it out on its own a little bit, and then we can come back later. Cord can come back and reference a particular, Volta tag or something, can tag it using normal Cord tagging and branching mechanisms.
Okay. Yeah, I'm still not sure I quite understand, but I don't know if we want to continue to drill down into this right now. So
maybe we want to try to get, hopefully we get a solution as, in the next couple days. Maybe I could take this to a email thread with just appropriate people, and we could discuss a little bit further.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea, just to make sure everyone's okay. In principle, I think this is fine.
yeah, and I don't object in principle to helping Volta. I just want to make sure I understand what are the ramifications.
Yes. Yeah, and we'll need help from a cord committer on this because we have a number of people have commit abilities and full access to the Volta repo itself. But when it comes to these other repos, we're going to have help from a cord committer to affect this.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. All right. Thanks very much for the time.
Great.
Hey, Kim, so what timeline we're thinking about so we can get the cord experts to help? Is that sometime within this week, right?
I intend to send an email here pretty quickly to Andy so he can review Andy and whoever else needs to be on the thread to review what's being discussed here. So I'm hoping this can proceed as soon as we get understanding by everybody in agreement. So.
I think sending the mail to the TST distribution list can be a good way to assure that everyone interested is notified.
Yeah, thanks. That's right.
Can you state that again? I didn't.
Send the email to the Cord TST. That'll make sure everyone that needs to track it, including Andy.
Okay, very good.
Thanks.
And again, so potentially we want this one to complete this week. So okay, I just want to make sure we have resources around on the core side to be able to help.
Yep, got it.
Thank you.
All right. Let's change gears. Did you have something?
The 99 Cloud proposal? We can be quick. I mean, it sounded like the preference was to schedule a call for them to join us and discuss.
Right.
But they can't meet this time.
Right. So what we're going to do for that is, thanks for reminding me because I forgot about that, is have alternating, do something like ONOS does it, have alternating afternoon, morning meetings, probably 4 o'clock. Is that the way it works? ONOS does it?
They do it 4 or 5. Yeah, 4.
4. So next week we could alternate and get them on the call. I think everyone likes what they're proposing.
Yeah, they just want to discuss.
But we want to just help them help us.
So do you want me to coordinate that timing with them, or do you want to reach out, or what would you
let me do that, because I want to broadcast it more broadly on the TST.
All right. Great. So I'll hold for now.
Yeah.
Great.
Okay, let's go to release planning. And I wanted to set a little context here, which is we have lots of teams doing relatively independent things. We also bring that all together in the releases, so that's a distribution, pulls all these parts in. I know that each group does a lot of drill down and road mapping on the details of what they're going to be doing, but this is the cross-cord coordination of that. Okay, so I'm not going to go terribly deep on any one of these, but I wanted to make sure that we had an understanding of project-wide priorities. Certainly we need to understand dependency. I think those are not going to be terribly difficult to deal with. I mean, that's basically the overview. I want to make sure that we understand cord-wide priorities. And what I thought I would do is, I know you have seen this document. Everything below the line now is input. What I wanted to do is spend a little while pulling items up, maybe doing a little bit of shaping so we understand what the key deliverable is, and just get everyone's input across platform, eCord, MCord, and Volta, and so on. I'm going to bootstrap this with what I think is one of our top priorities. And that's the one I called out here. So all I'm going to be doing is bringing stuff from below up and putting it up here. And this can be reworded, but it's, let me actually take a shot at that, because having a common platform that supports multiple flavors is a Cord requirement. We need to demonstrate that. Make it bigger. All right, so this has been on everyone's radar for a while. I think this particular one, and we've actually talked about so I'll just go ahead and note it. It's already there, but let me just, oops. I want to target a mid-cycle release to support this. This is what we've been calling 4.1. And the other thing I wanted to do is somehow call out that this involves the platform team, the eCord team, the MCORD team, the ACORD team. I don't know quite how to characterize Volta, so I'm going to look at you. RCORD/Volta. What do you call it, RCORD? Okay.
RCORD, yeah.
All right, so RCORD's already there, but this is RCORD with Volta. And actually, let me come back to MCORD and annotate that with open source EPC. I don't think there's a qualifier on eCord, it's just basic eCord. And ACORD, we've only got one ACORD. All right, so with that stake in the ground, we can talk about we can reorder the priorities, but in my mind, that is one of the critical things that we know we need to do. And we
have operators that want this as well. Which telecom runs which two versions do they run?
RNN.
And how about when you this is one of the kind of mobile trying to do E&M. Okay. Yeah, so I think it's important to demonstrate it, of course, but I think even more important is that we have two operators that are trying to make sure that they're able to consistently run a couple of different access methods, right? One Cord Tst.
Let me.
I think this was also involving point 2 in the priority that is supporting multi-access.
Right. So again, this is going to be rough, but.
This one, I'm saying.
Well, so let me call out two different versions of this because we talk variants of this, which are in.
So I guess this is just upgrading REM to 4.0, and then the other one is making sure they can pull the system.
Yeah. That's how I understood.
This one is actually the easy one.
I'm having trouble here. Now, so let me call out the two variants of this. One is multiple independent flavors
on the same platform.
Sorry, I'm just trying to say we can do 4 configurations of Cord, but they are each one access technology per, but they all use the same platform. Multiple flavors on same platform and
Simply on same pod.
right, thank you. All right, yeah, maybe just using. And the other variant of that is multiple flavors on the same pod. That's a steep thing to do. Right, at the same time.
Is that because pod includes the networking stuff?
We just haven't, if we can do step 1, then step 2 should follow, but we've never done it. That's all.
how is step 2?
Step 1 is bring up eCord on shared delusion platform, bring up RCord on shared delusion platform, but they're independent. They're running one access technology per deployment, but they're using the same platform. Step 2 is bring up at least a couple of those at the same on the same pod.
In parallel.
Yeah, combined. Yeah, that it's truly now multi-accesses. It's just a half a step further, and I suspect that we'll find something.
I think step 2 is way harder than step 3. Very hard.
It very well could be. We've never tried it.
So are we saying this is going to be for immediate?
So I think, yeah. So I think this is 4.1, and getting that second step is 5.0. Let's call it 5.0 just to not get too complicated. So the mid release is at least multiple triggers on one platform. The final release, hopefully, we will have done we will have taken that second step. Right now, my model of what we're doing here is that's a Cord-wide priority. Each group now goes away and figures out and where they have to collaborate, works that into your own per project planning.
I think that there's an epic to a set of stories that we're best to read, right? Before people just go off and really start picking up their own stories, right?
So this, all right. So this is right. This one's probably the most complicated because it cuts across the most projects.
Let's just pick one, right? Pick the eCord, right? When Mark and a couple people from Platform should be able to come up with the epic and the stories, right?
Sure. This is the point I was trying to make. So I think for eCord, it's relatively easy because it's one project with just a few components. But it's same as you, not because for as I understand it, there's like, it is what, like 6 demos? Okay, you probably know. On 6 different platforms. Or 4 different platforms. I mean, but you have to be honest with it, right? Are you going to take all of that work?
No, this
That's a massive undertaking. You will not be able to do anything.
No. So this is not bringing every good point, but this is not about bringing every single MCORD demo gun onto. This is there is a planned release of the MCORD open source EPC. That's a subset of all the things that they've done. That's the subset that would be included here. And again, it would be.
I would say with the commitment that everything new that is being built goes on that. I mean,
in the future.
Stuff like forking and diluting.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
No? I know this is a hard commitment to make because you want to get results really quickly, but if we keep on like.
I hope that's true.
Going in all directions.
On the one hand, it's an independent we're trying to allow for.
Let's come back and.
Yeah, I'm okay.
It's
This is trying to get the core platform in a better shape, right?
Yeah.
You're saying to work towards all the next demo for the door.
On a common platform. That's the whole point of this. If we don't do that, then this whole thing is. Why are we doing it? Right?
I think I completely agree. It's going to be hard to manage, especially in the case in which the demo is provided by someone that is not our team.
Right.
I would love to do that.
Right. This is what is your ask, I think, commitment on the same platform.
I think for here, the MCORD with the open source EPC, I just maybe want to say one sentence. We already open source the EPC independently. So MCORD the XOS service also independently. So right now we just want to have an MCORD release, make them work together. Because right now people need to build the MCORD pod, then build the EPC images. People do it separately. Right now, we just combine them together for the MCORD release one.
So the way that I look at this is we're trying to lower barrier to doing this the right way the next time. I don't know that there is always going to be independent work. There are going to be people out there still running on 2.0, and we can't do anything about that. But this is the path to the release, the distribution that we're putting together.
I agree with that, but I think it's hard, and eCord want to stay on the leading edge cord, right? The platform team should enable that.
Yeah.
Right?
Agreed.
If we're serious about this multi-access, we need to do this.
So we're not.
And then,
So what statement? I think I agree with you. What statement are you looking for? I wrote it a commitment for future work continues on that same platform, but we can't make that necessarily unilaterally for all projects.
Yeah, I don't know if we make a statement, but I think just how we put together the stories and epics is going to reflect needs that they have to be able to keep moving forward on that platform. Do you agree?
yeah, of course, yeah, that makes sense.
So where did you see the biggest burden? Is it on the platform supporting the features each flavor needs, or is it on the projects, the flavors, not the diversion from the platform? Or I mean, it's both, but I'm wondering if you saw one of those as the higher hurdle.
That part I don't know. All I know is we've never tried deploying R&E or E&M or R&M at the same time. We've never tried that. That's going to be a significant challenge because there's so much like assumptions that we made.
Yep.
We have to dig back like from what did we do to
Yeah. I think that's exactly right. I think that's exactly right.
So it's unknown territory, and if we don't commit to it, then we just do whatever we want. I mean,
Okay.
me too.
All right. So basically, another way of saying what this I think is that second bullet I have multiple flavors in the same pod, the 5.0.
Yeah, that's exactly. I think that's the hardest part and probably the most critical one.
Hard.
If we are serious
and
about
important.
it, then maybe we can also say we're not ready to fit it all at the same time. We still need to stabilize each individual one. Perfectly acceptable for me.
Yeah. At the very least, we need tooling and infrastructure to support the building and testing of the code coming together.
For sure.
Right? So it doesn't split apart again.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure we need
That's a lot of
also,
work in itself.
Yep.
and we need all the flavors to run on the same version of the platform. Otherwise, it's going to be even more complicated to integrate all of that.
So Bill, you made it. I want to make sure I capture the point you just made, which is we need. You said infrastructure. Are you specifically QA infrastructure, or we do?
We don't need the infrastructure.
Yeah, need infrastructure.
Job, pipeline, everything.
We need a pod that has both E and R devices in it.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. We don't want to go in detail to do it here, but if you start with the story or an epic that says, I want eCord to be on the platform from here forward, right? And so stories will be, the initial work to get it there, the work around putting in place the automated build infrastructure, the set of tests that will be needed to validate that it doesn't go out of sync, right? You get all those stories built out.
Right. This is
Also, as infrastructure, maybe having virtualized access hardware as we do for Cord.
Yep, it might be our
test client that we can use in a smaller pod or in a virtualized environment, having the same virtualization for Cord and eCord access devices can be helpful in testing the integration without having a physical pod with the different access devices.
Yep.
I think one more point to make is, maybe this is getting too detailed, but service chain, once you bring them together, there will still be kind of run in parallel. So people might expect like, I have mCord and eCord, so I can do these eCord connectivity services for my mobile customers.
Okay, that's good.
Or I can spawn a VSG for my mobile customers, like my R&M. That may be like
All right, so
The
that's,
next step.
right,
that-
so they're on the
that
same
we're not
pod,
ready for.
they're on the same pod, but the service change never crossed.
They don't, yeah, exactly.
Okay, so, and now this may be down the road.
Maybe that will be easy, but
No,
I
it's not.
doubt.
Um,
But that's what the point we want.
we want to get, right, eventually, this is a roadmap, and we aren't going to get necessarily all of these things. So eventually, have flavors share common services. Service change cross. No, cross the flows.
Microsoft tells me I cannot do that.
All right. Okay, we got one. And that's a lot of work underneath, but what I wanted to establish is now everybody goes off and builds to that, or JIRAs to that priority.
How do we get to the point where we figure out what's needed from the platform or anything else to actually do, right? If it's all out to the individual teams, then who's actually laying Accord and input together, right? Does the Accord team do both?
So I think when we, well, I already called out this combination. So planning here, I think it's going to be, the plan roughly is pairwise platform eCord, platform mCord, platform aCord to do the 4.1. So it's kind of pairwise.
Yeah.
When we get to the second bullet, then we're probably going to need to reconvene and figure out exactly how to do that. And I'm going to, it's going to have to be some kind of cross-team swarming thing that happens there.
This thing about service chaining crossing, isn't that the only goal that we should be aiming for, especially if we have multi-access edge? Because if they are not crossing, what's the point? We're just sharing resources at that point.
But you are, I think you're absolutely right, that in the end there was no reason to do it if we couldn't get to that. The problem is that though in the legacy stuff that's there, they're so independent that finding those opportunities to cross is hard. So we got perfectly good routers, but then in the residential cord, but there's a completely independent way of doing routing with PE gateways in the mobile case. So something like
you are sharing infrastructure. That's one of the features of Cord, right? You have one spine fabric, you have one data center infrastructure to run everything to support all your customers.
No, I think
part of the value proposition. But ultimately you want to hit the point.
That's why you do that. Maybe not why, but it is a critical thing that you eventually get there. So a CDN is an easy thing because everyone goes to the cache, and we can do that one. But it'd be nice if there was more than that.
So the initial value proposition is optimal resource utilization. Second is the cross-service chain.
Yeah. Yeah.
We had come up with an architecture in the mCord, which we needed the cross-service chaining, but I think we have to take smaller steps.
Yeah, we want to get back to that point. So this could keep us all busy for most of the release. So let's be ambitious. I think actually it will. So maybe, well, all right. So we've already got some things that are, the way that I would characterize it is that the first line is the requirement, and the second is the, what is the word that we use? Must and should or whatever. We will have failed if we don't do the first one. It'd be nice if we had at least, even if it wasn't blessed as official because it was still buggy, if we had at least a POC of the second one, that would be good. And a POC of the third one.
So we got our epics and stories in fiery order.
Yep.
That will fall out.
That will fall, exactly. That's exactly right.
And then maybe you can tell us the schedule.
We'll come back to that.
Okay. Because I think when the team saw that, right, there was what could be covered.
Yeah, I think we all recognize that as we drill down on this is going to be a non-trivial amount of work, and we're not going to have a whole lot of time. So we just don't have a whole lot of time.
So even maybe a higher priority in this is make sure that we have time to get ready for cord build. Because cord build is going to happen no matter what.
Yeah, and I think we agreed that we wanted to have 4.1 for cord build.
Yeah.
So that probably won't leave any time to start even looking at 5.0 before compatibility.
Yeah, I think that's right.
And then I thought on the list was changes to support the issues that were found in China.
That's where I was going to next. That was going to be my next one.
Where does that fit?
So I'm on a roll, so I'm going to keep going. And that's my second priority was someone add language in here that would help me so I don't have to make up the sorry. Build system. Never mind. That went some other direction. I was remembering wrong. All right. So this was. I'm gonna again try to do this in real time because operators need. I'm going to call it stable. Builds, not subject to changes in source code. We need to, I don't know, augment the build process to support full, and now I'm drilling down to a particular solution, but a full container-based deployment. And that was hastily written, but hopefully this is the key idea.
So you mean that given the set of containers that run the system, it's just a matter of pushing them somewhere and containers.
Right, and from the operator point of view, you'd like to know that yesterday when I built this, I got version 2.2 of that package. Today I wanted to make damn sure I get 2.2 and not Ansible changed out from underneath me and suddenly it's different. And this also obviously improves the build time. It has a really good side effect, but connecting this to the customer requirement, quote unquote customer requirement, I think it's that you got that's the stability.
So there are two things to it. Obviously, pinning the versions is one way of doing it. Pinning versions with containers is a lot easier than the traditional approach. Otherwise, depending upon your operational tools like Ansible or Bash scripts, go around pinning each and every piece of software. A lot of these tools are already dockerized, pulling them and running them as is with all the prerequisites and security is a lot easier. So the goal is pinning, but the operational tool is Docker or container resolution.
So I think that it's pretty easy just to target pin code, but when it gets to software that you install to pin your code and etc., it's way easier to use containers.
Okay, so again, there's stories here. I think this one probably falls primarily to the platform team. Does anyone?
I agree with that. That does fall to the platform team. Does this also, are we going to have this expand into containerizing things that previously weren't containerized, like OpenStack and Mass, or looking for other options that fill those gaps?
Yeah, so yes. So the short answer is yes. Containerizing operational tools like definitely OpenStack. Mass will probably follow closely next. The plan is to start with one and then move on to the next one. At this stage, we don't have timelines on when exactly this will happen. That will probably be with the stories and epics. We already have certain tools to start up with. There are some open source tools that, for instance, AT&T has already created for orchestrating containerized OpenStack. The plan is to start with that.
Sure. Let me just make note, falls to the platform team, but this is also an opportunity for collaborators, and Cloud 99 is the specific one that seems very helpful here. and we'll talk to them at next week's TST to see if that actually lines up.
Also, the choice of using something that has been created by AT&T as an open source is still a discussion in progress. We are basically looking for consensus on what the best tools would be. But we do have a set of tools we could start off right away with.
All right, so I made that note. We're going to look at shared tools with AT&T, and that conversation Gopi's been involved in. So hopefully,
You said you're going to go to the China Mobile set of issues next.
so this is part of that. This is the kind of the big thing. So we haven't gone. Let me just make a note this way. Make sure this is a note. We address all of the China Mobile lessons.
But why does that have to be lumped under containerization?
Because they had quite a lot of trouble with fetching and building the code.
Yeah.
So this is
binary. You're stuck in that problem.
Yeah. So if we can containerize everything, the China Mobile issue reduced to publish the container somewhere in China.
Yeah. So
that solves all of those issues in China.
There were a couple others.
Right.
But they were.
That was like the main one, the overarching thing that.
There's a bunch of other little ones, but some of those have actually already been addressed. All right, so these two, I could have worded this better, but these two derive from conversations we've been having with China Mobile, thanks to Zach and Mark and AT&T.
So it kind of makes sense. We hit it with China, but
It's generally
like a carrier grade stable.
Okay, other comments on this one before we go on?
I just want to point out that is another big task.
It is.
And
So
the target is not 4.1. I just wanted to make,
Yeah.
make that clear.
Yeah. Okay. Let's make that.
This one seems kind of
It is. It really is. You know. And yeah.
Dr. Bill, and then you're done.
If you want to pick it up.
So this is the one pressure, shall we call it, to do some mid-cycle release, I think, is the everything on the same platform as the previous one.
I thought there were some requirements for the China stuff to try to get that done earlier than 5.0.
If
At least from what it's.
there was from Asim, he wanted the low-hanging fruit as soon as possible. So we've done a lot of the low-hanging fruit, or some of the low-hanging fruit.
I think we have some other low-hanging fruits that we can pick to help deployment in China.
All right, so let me make note. The low-hanging fruit in a 4.1 mid-cycle. Okay, so let me stop piling on the platform team and see if we got something to put on the list from.
Larry and Lincoln, on the interested side, are we continue this next week, or do we have like another session
We're going to.
outside of TST to discuss this?
We're just going to. Yeah, I guess I didn't say. I was assuming we were going to go long.
Well, we have an engineering meeting here at 11.
Oh, you do.
Yeah.
And we do have release planning tomorrow, right?
Well, we've got platform release planning, but yeah. So, all right, let me wrap it up. Let's do the following. This is going to consume the platform team, and we could go further. And there's some items that might get a little attention, but what are the priorities for eCord apart from what we've been talking about here?
Can we just schedule time to do?
Yeah, let's start about an hour tomorrow.
Start the first hour, maybe?
Start 9 a.m.
Can you do that?
We talk about that first for that discussion or not? So what is?
I think it's
tomorrow, the time that
There's a platform release planning thing.
Oh, I'm sorry,
That's
that's
good.
what time are we starting, 9 or 10? 9?
9 to 5.
I don't know what to do about that. This feels.
We're gonna have a level set at 9 anyways, of something, right?
Right.
What do we play for 9:30?
We can maybe figure out offline a time that works for everyone to have an extended discussion about what are the deliverables for the flavor.
The flavor. What are the high priorities for the flavors? Yeah. And I mean, from the point of view of coordinating across all the projects, these were the critical things. This is where people groups showed up, working together. My assumption is that Volta will continue down a path that's largely independent of this, and there will be a set of priorities. And we've already gone through the process of trying to understand their platform requirements. Same thing from MCORD, the platform requirements are on network slicing, and so on. All right, so let's follow up with email on the specific time to continue the flavor discussion tomorrow, and then we'll schedule it into that. Is there anything else on what's up here so far?
Hi, Larry. And for the mate flavor or mate configurations of the Cord pod, in this MWC, San Francisco, DT and Redis, they implement and show the demo of R and M Cord together. I think maybe for some time in the future, we should invite them to show us how they did it.
Okay, let me make note of that. That's good. So I'll just note it here.
And Redis.
Radisys and DT, right?
That was the DT word.
R and M Cord together.
But there's two different, my understanding is there were two different demos, DT and Radisys separately.
Yeah, there are two different demos, but on the DT table, they showed the R and M Cord together.
Thanks. What? Incorporate lessons, talk to them, make sure we're not. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Okay, so let's call this one a day for right now. Thanks, everybody.